thanks so much for joining us here. This is Ballroom 3, and we are in this session talking about two really interesting things that relate specifically to making an opportunity like a pandemic into something positive, right? Like this is a chance for us to take sustainability and apply it to what we're doing, and then also to start a company and apply that to what we're doing. We're a couple minutes behind schedule here, but we'll be running these sessions exactly 30 minutes long. So we'll go from 2:10 to 2:40, and then from 2:40 till a little after 3 is how we'll run it. Thanks so much for getting into this next ballroom. I'll invite to the stage another good friend of mine named Monica Mitchell. She is a premier media person. She stands up in all kinds of places. She's written for all kinds of different publications, some of the major business publications out there. She's from the finance world. She used to do recruitment around finance. She pivoted, as all of us do, at various points in our careers. And what she did when she pivoted is she created a media company that focused on doing good and doing good first. And that's how she and I met. We met at a place called the Center for Social Innovation, which is there in New York City. It's a co-work space, and it has hundreds of people who are doing good with their business, not just nonprofits, but with businesses. And I want to welcome to the stage Monica Mitchell. Thanks so much for coming.
Hey, hi, Shane, Dr. Snipes, sorry. And everybody, good to meet everyone. I love this event. It's nice. And Nomi is also joining us, I think, right?
Yes, we're going to have a really nice set of people in this event that you'll have. And I just invited Nomi, so you'll have her. Suleika is coming up to be in the space with you. And I'm grabbing a couple more of your folks. So,
yeah, great.
Yeah, Neelam will be here too.
She's there. She's there already. I just saw her.
Yeah. I'll actually invite her onto the stage with you.
And then
I'll let you take
on
over,
my lap,
Monica.
by the way. That was Izzy. She's going to be a guest panelist. She's a 6-pound poodle.
Nice. You gotta love that.
Yeah.
And I'll just turn it all over to you guys. Enjoy, have fun talking about sustainability and how it relates to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Snipes. And okay, my name, as you know, as you just said, Monica Mitchell, and we also have a student and president of the Business and Entrepreneurship. If I'm wrong, Nomi, you correct me. Business and Entrepreneurship Club at BMCC. Right, that's the title, right?
Yeah, Business and Entrepreneur Club.
Yeah, and Nomi's going to be our moderator with 30 minutes. So we have Neelam Tuar. Am I saying your name right?
Yeah.
Yes. And Salika Chandra. I talked to Salika earlier. We're all set. We know what we're doing. But basically what we want to do here is talk about what Shane said about sustainability. So I don't know if that means business sustainability or environmental sustainability, but I think it's always both, because I don't think you can have a business without environmental sustainability or economic sustainability. So at least not a good business. And that is what I used to do. Good Business was a journal about social entrepreneurs. But I love what you guys are doing. So I think the first thing we want to do is ask you a little bit about your business model. So just tell us who you are, when you got it started, and what the name of your business is, and how long you've been doing it. And then we'll go into crisis mode. I've had 5 businesses, one through 9/11, one through the financial crisis, and then I'm starting another one up now. And I had one in between, all different kinds of success. So some were very successful and some just died on the fly. So, you know, every single business model you have, you tighten it up with each process. And every time there's an event, you know, you're not in a cocoon. So if there's a national event or a local event or a global event, you're going to be affected by it. So Naleen Tiwar, tell me a little bit about your business and what do you do and how long have you been doing it?
So hi, everyone. It's super exciting to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I have a background in corporate culture. So I worked in corporate America out of New York City for many years and strategy for pharmaceutical clients and brands. I sort of realized that that's not the place I want to play. So I was very unhappy, anxiety ridden and possibly depressed if I ever went to get clinically diagnosed. I didn't like where my life was going, and I knew I had to make a change. I knew it had to be with something that I loved doing. So while I enjoyed the work I did in corporate America, the excitement of geeking out and doing strategy, I figured I don't want to use my brains here. I'd rather put my brains somewhere else where I can create more impact, help others create more income.
What are
and
you
financial
doing?
fluidity.
What's your model? I mean, what's your business? What did
Sure,
you
it's a
decide to do?
Yeah, so I decided to consult. And so I consult with entrepreneurs, corporates, and other individuals around the world who are looking to start up either their businesses or have existing businesses that they don't quite know how to build organic visibility around to drive sales and revenue.
So you kind of focus on social media or marketing, or?
I'll do both. Both. It depends on the person and their business model. So the strategy comes from an integrated perspective. So it's not just online, but what is actually happening offline as well for some businesses. So we don't live in a media agnostic world anymore, right? We're all in this beautiful room together.
Yeah.
And if I were to meet you in person, Monica, I would have the same experience that I'm having right now. Only difference
it would be better.
I maybe I could get to hug your little
totally.
cutie
Well,
pie over
germ
there.
free air hugs. We'll send air hugs.
Air hug.
Thank you, though. So I want to ask Salika Chandra a bit about your business model, which is about training. And I told her before that I thought she was talking about bodybuilding. And it's not that kind of training. What kind of training do you do?
Oh, well, as I mentioned to you, that youth mentoring is very close to my heart. And how I really got into training was because I wanted to interact with youth. Way back, just 3 years ago, I started with Born Paradise. And with the mission to reach 1 million people, to empower them with emotional intelligence skills. Well, Dr. Shamira is here. She's one of the founding members of Forum of Emotional Intelligence Learning India. And Dr. Ashish Sain, he's one of the gurus in India, and I have learned from them. So we are together on a mission to create this impact on people. And we are not only now reaching only to students, but also to corporates and individuals. And that's how the model is working. But earlier, as if when we see that we believed more in conducting one face-to-face conferences, seminars, but now COVID situation has taught us social responsibility to be virtual and conduct these trainings, webinars online.
So that's one way you pivoted. So that's one of your models for the crisis. So I will switch it over to Nomi now and let her ask both of you a question because she has some good ones.
Okay. So one question that I want to ask you guys is, how have you made it a point to kind of practice environmental sustainability or enforced it in your businesses and daily lives and careers, or how you plan to, especially with this pandemic that has, fallen upon us and with all the changing circumstances?
Salika, do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about me? Shall I go first? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
All right, Naomi, I was, before coming to this session, I was looking through different definitions of sustainability because now it's a forum wherein I would definitely like to put some perspectives across.
Yeah.
Well, I read out the 3 most important definitions that I came across, from which I learned a lot of lessons. Sustainability is the ability to be maintained at a certain level or a rate. This is 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, sustainability requires making decisions that recognize the connections between actions and their effects on the environment, economy, and society. Now, this definition was given by Hans Korel, who worked in forestry way back in 1700s. All right? And the third definition is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, 3 things come out of these 3 definitions. One is ability to maintain. Number two says knowing the impact of your decision making for decades to come, right? And
And thank you for those definitions. But I thought, what we really want to talk about is we're helping younger entrepreneurs, right, who are just starting out and trying to figure out how to keep their business model. As a person who had my business model destroyed in 2001 with the 9/11, and then destroyed again, I worked on Wall Street in the financial securities market, the one that exploded the world in 2008. Okay. So you really do have to figure out how to navigate through the crises. And sometimes, like in 2001, all I really had to do was wait a year and kind of restart my business. And that was hard. How do you hang on for a year? And in 2008, I really had to fold the company. And we hung on for a couple of years, but the business wasn't coming back. It was in the securities market, and that whole market blew up. So when I came back, one of the things I thought about was, how do you create a business that you feel good about? Because one of the things I didn't feel good about was, securities markets that, destroyed people's homes, destroyed people's businesses, destroyed their incomes. So that's how I came up with Good Business, and it was called Good B. It was a journal online with, highlighting all kinds of entrepreneurs, and also, a journal, events, web shows. But this is my question to you, Neelam, of how do you do that now? Now, you guys are consultants, basically, right? But you have a consulting company, you have employees and things like that. Do you have employees, Neelam?
No, so I'm a one-woman army,
okay,
so to speak. I've always said that that's how I wanted to operate for at least the first 5 to 6 years of my business. Everything I do is definitely has systems around it so that it's not driving me crazy, in that I travel quite a bit. So I'm a location independent business owner. I don't have any structure that keeps me in a significant place for any longer than I need to be. I needed that for other pursuits that I have, including traveling and speaking around the world. So for me, just in that, I think the footprint that I would typically have if I had an operations and an actual building, employees, printing documents and all of that, just that would have added to contributing to that footprint. So none of that is happening. So, and I was also very clear when I started working for myself that I absolutely wanted to have more online than not. So at the get-go, the business model was 98% online. Mm. And then somehow organically, I get invited to speak on stages. That shifted things. And I was like, wow, okay, great. This is another approach to getting your message out, if you will, and help more people. So that's when I had to just look at certain things. But even with COVID kicking in, it's not affecting my revenue that comes typically from speaking, because the consulting has kicked up. So
a question on that part is, how do you balance when you do start traveling with air travel and car travel and God knows what? How do you balance that environmental sustainability piece? I take public transportation. When it comes to client management, I only have to change the time zone on my calendar. So either I do it on the day I'm traveling or the day I get there, so that none of the client meetings get messed up. I make sure they're aware that these are the slots that are completely blocked. So I take care of timing that way. I do not print anything I don't need to print. When I'm doing a session, depending on what the session is, I'll either use a PowerPoint slide, or I'm fine doing pure oration. So I'll just speak. I won't touch certain things when I'm on the road. And
And I also, when I'm flying, I try to make sure that I don't do too many connections if I can help it. And I'll try to stay in locations and environments where I'm supporting the local economy, meaning I'll pick the local Airbnb if that was an option, or a local bed and breakfast. Yeah, versus going into a big hotel unless I'm being hosted there where I actually wouldn't have too much of a choice.
Right. Naomi, do you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, so I love that you mentioned kind of just supporting the smaller businesses and corporations rather than, choosing to go for a hotel or anything like that at, any given time. Should I just follow up with my next question?
Yeah,
Monica?
absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to kind of touch on, why in your own perspective would you say that sustainability in any form, but especially environmental sustainability in business and entrepreneurship is important, especially with these changing times and the mindset of everyone is kind of shifting. Technology is going to become a bigger thing even now. So why would you say that that's important during a crisis, and especially during a global crisis like this? So, Sulika, you can start.
All right, Naomi, a very, very relevant question. When you talked about the paradigm shift in mindsets, let me highlight a few things that are happening right now. I think not only in our country, but worldwide it must be happening. I received certain calls from my clients, from people, from employees, who said that their employers are not receiving their calls anymore.
Oh, okay.
You get my points?
Yeah.
Their employers are not receiving their calls anymore. That means look at the disconnect such employers are creating.
Right.
And look at the loyalty or the trust they're losing at this moment.
Yeah. And
Isn't it?
Such a bad time to be losing that.
Such a bad time.
Yeah.
The most important thing to understand is that a retrenchment or giving pink slips, it's not a new idea. It has happened earlier as well. Mm-hmm. Or layoffs used to happen earlier as well. But what matters the most is the management response.
Right.
It does not matter whether you're running a concern which has just 10 employees, or you're running a concern having 1,000 employees. What matters is your management philosophy. Mm-hmm. So are you trying to, in these times also, are you trying to have that connect with those people who have worked for you?
Right. So
how are you establishing the trust? Are you able to communicate that, okay, even I'm in mess, I'm not able to pay you, but can we just come together and talk about it, work out something? Maybe I cannot even pay you even a penny, but can we still talk?
Yeah.
But withdrawing at this moment is something which is not acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Definitely communication.
That is where I think, businesses need to understand that right now you really need to hold on to those people who have helped you in your business so far. Right? We don't know. It's quite possible that in a matter of month or two, businesses might return.
Well, they're going to return.
Jobs.
But I want to say that what's
lost,
saying
not really important.
Relationships are your bread and butter. So
exactly,
this is a temporary time. We don't know what's going to come out at the other end, but you're still in business. Your businesses haven't died. So, I think the one area that might be really challenged would be like brick and mortar buildings, businesses and restaurants and bars. I don't know how they're going to make it. But let's talk about what you do, Neelam, in answer to Nomi's question. Give us your response to that.
So I think, Monica, it is about relationships and how we behave during a crisis is going to stay in somebody's mind.
Yeah.
So the better we keep ourselves in integrity, the long-term effect of us making ethical decisions, it's going to play out in our favor. And I don't mean that in like a materialistic sense at all. I just mean that At the end of the day, people want to do business with people who are credible, who they trust, who they like, who they know will stand for them and have their backs. That's about it, really, like from what I've seen around all the different types of industries I interact with. So if we can just have the kind of, courage within ourselves as business owners to just ride this wave, we'll be good. But I will just say one thing really quick, and it may not meet popular opinion here, but as business owners, a lot of things have come to the fore right now. Entrepreneurship became the buzzword over the last few years. And every person was like trying to ride that bandwagon. And it is not for everybody.
True.
It just isn't. I'm not discouraging anyone here. I'm just going to say, play the long game.
Okay.
Love the thing that you're creating. Look at the vision it has. Don't just do it because Amazon is the unicorn or you want to be the next unicorn. Do it so that you can change something in the current narrative that this globe, this planet is going through. That's what's going to get rewarded, right? We don't need another e-marketer, e-retailer. We need people looking at our oceans. We need people looking at our poverty. We're looking at distribution issue with food. Let's solve those things. Let's get our minds together and do that, because it's about the future generation. We're renting this space right now. That's not our home. We're going to go. I don't mean to sound morbid, but we have to be serious about the work we're doing. And entrepreneurs, and I'm just going to say this out loud, I'm not trying to alienate anyone, but women entrepreneurs, we can change the game.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
I really believe women can do some magical stuff, and it's about getting that confidence back. If that's the issue, getting your tribe around you, supporting you to keep you moving forward. But go out there, try different things. Don't be married to just one idea. Keep putting things out there, because the resilience comes from failing, trying, testing, and finding ways to bounce back and figuring out what works for you and what
Yeah.
And I think that that's like the whole point of it. What we're learning from a global crisis such as the pandemic is that it takes a lot of learning, time, effort, patience, not being so stubborn in one realm of you just have to keep looking for new ideas and new ways to cope with a crisis like this. So I think that's a really good point to make. There's a question from the Q&A list. How can every company focus on sustainability? How would you guys answer that?
Sulika, you want to go first?
Sulika, you can answer this.
We're taking
All right, so how can we focus on sustainability? As we discussed, sustainability is about making decisions which can have a long-term impact, and we should be able to see through future as to what my decisions are going to bring to the future generations. That has to be kept in mind. Number one. Number two, as people, we always are blessed with multiple talents, and we need to identify those talents, those multiple skills that we can put in circulation, so that one talent can feed the other talent, that can feed the other talent, and this circle must go on. For example, I was discussing earlier that if I love reading, the reading feeds my writing. My reading and writing both together feed my speaking. Does this help? As an example.
Yeah.
So you need to work out what are your skills, what are the alternatives, put everything out there, try everything. Do not she said very rightly, Neelam said it very rightly, don't get married to just one idea.
Right.
Brainstorm with as many people as you want. And one of the things that I noticed with the students while I was in mentoring sessions, they said that on this question as to who are you asking when you are, designing your things, they said we have a group of friends. Then I asked, okay, besides group of friends, who else are you consulting? Exactly. They said we have started. So my advice to them is, do get in touch with people who are ahead of you, who are already entrepreneurs, or ahead of you, or still navigating in this situation. They can definitely guide you what to do.
Okay, we're getting close on time, and I appreciate that. That's true. But we're almost out of time, so we've got 4.5 minutes left, and I want to give you a chance to close it up. But I want to hone in on something that Neelam said, which I thought there's a couple of things you both said that I thought was so important. One was, Salika, you talked about relationships and the importance of developing relationships. And Neelam, you talked about integrity and how, you get about how you deal with crisis when you come out the other side. That's what they're going to remember about you. It's just, that was a mouthful, what you both said about those things. And also like how not everybody is an entrepreneur. You can, innovate. Do you like to, the way you decide if you're an entrepreneur or not, you don't really decide, it decides for you. But do you like to take the lead? Oh, sorry. She obviously does.
He obviously does.
Izzy, please. You're in.
That's fine.
Perfect time.
Yeah, it's perfect timing. So, hey, excuse me. It's like, do you like to take, sorry about that, but do you like to take orders or do you do you want somebody else to tell you the plan, or you want to come up with the plan? Do you want to be part of the team? Do you want to be the solo entrepreneur like you are, Neelam? These are the questions we have to ask. And then the other thing I loved, and let's talk about this, and maybe we can close it up with final statements from both of you, and Nomi, you too, because you are the president of the business club here. I'll ask this to all three of you. Like, what problem, you said this, Neelam, what problem solves something in the world? Like, basically, don't just take up space. Salika said, go with your passions. But if you combine your passions with problem solving in the world, and making it a business plan that makes a difference, like makes the world better, not worse, how do you do that? Like, what is that magic for you?
I think it's just being very intentional. Like, don't do something that you'd be ashamed of telling your mom about.
Especially if you're online.
Yeah, especially if you're online, right? I think our moral compass will change because sometimes the hustle mode is on, right? Like you'll all see this happen to you individually. I'm sure the students will go through this. But I think just whatever feels empirically right to you in that moment is right in that moment. Meaning, if you graduate from that moment after experience and failures and exposure and all of that, you may not make the same decisions. So the grace of decision making and the forgiveness when you look back and say, like, I shouldn't have done that. I could have done it this way. And there's nothing like the perfect formula. You have to just understand that it's an iterative process. And I personally believe that I will always be a work in progress. I have no destination I'm going to, but while I'm doing something or while I'm in this creation mode, I better make sure that no one's getting hurt in anything I create and everyone's getting something valuable in their lives. Hopefully. Sorry.
Perfect. That's perfect. So, just, 30 seconds, Nomi, and 30 seconds, Salika. Do you have anything to add? Because we have to close it out. And I want to thank you guys. You're awesome.
Yes, Monica, I would like to just say that to everyone that contribution is directly related to growth. This is what I have learned and experienced. If you contribute, you grow. And I have, sustained because I have been contributing to various other platforms. And those are the platforms which have now come back in COVID situation and given me business.
That's perfect. Let's stop it there because that is brilliant. And that's the model. Nomi, anything you want to say in closing?
So again, it's just it's just a combination of what Neelam and Salika are both saying. I think that it's a process of experience and growth and really understanding what you want to do and knowing that it's not about what you want to do for yourself or your own business, but what you want to do for the world and for people. And especially during a crisis like this, it kind of it should teach you that we have responsibility to the people around us and our planet. And I think that that's what we all should be working towards and, building.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome, Naomi. You asked wonderful questions. Really love it.
You're welcome. It was so great having you guys. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. You guys did an amazing. Monica, thank you so much for bringing this conversation to us. Naomi, your questions were fantastic. And everyone, Tuleka, your insights are truly incredible. And I just want to say thanks to all of you. We're going to transition now to the next panel because we got to keep moving. We want to make sure that everyone who's come to speak with us is able to share their insights. We have some esteemed guests coming up next. I want to welcome back to the stage Bill, who we spoke with before, and Bill Nielsen, who is an inspiration for me because we both kind of speak the same language, think the same things. I feel like he's a brother that I just never met, and I'm going like, why?
Beard with the white right
I mean,
here.
even got a little gray coming in our beards. Like this is meant. Yeah, it's meant to be. And the other person I want to bring to the stage, who I met a few weeks ago, actually a couple months ago, was just because of her work at Google and being one of the premier trainers at Google and sharing the stories about how Google can help things, businesses, small businesses in particular, be more successful. I came together with her beginning of this year to talk about ways that she could bring information to BMCC students. So I'm excited to have her in the conversation with us today. And I'm looking forward to hearing a lot about this. And I'm going to also invite, I think we have one or two other guests. I'm going to go find them and pull them in. But we can start out with you two, and I look forward to the conversation.
Sounds
Awesome.
good.
Wonderful.
Hi, Sixia. Did I say that
Bill.
correctly?
Yeah, you did. Nice to see you. So I see a green screen. Do you see me?
No, I can see me, but I have a green screen for you. It's very strange.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't see you, but I could hear you.
Yeah, I just have a green screen for you.
Awesome. Well, I think it might be going in and out, but you know what? That's okay, because sharing our voices is going to be just as important. Although I'd love to see you, but you know what?
It'll make me listen even more. It's good.
Yeah, right.
So how do you?
Hi guys, how are you?
Oh, there, Arthur's here. He's going to be the moderator, I think.
I'm student moderator. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. How are you guys?
We're doing well.
All right, that's good. Yeah. So let's start off. How would you start a company during a crisis like this, during challenging times?
Sixia, do you want to take that, or do you want me to lead?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll take that. First of all, I just wanted to say hello to everybody. A virtual hello. I can't really see you, and I hope that maybe you could see me. But just really quick, just a little bit of my background, just to offer you some perspective on where I'm sitting right now. So I have two jobs that I'm doing right now. The first one is I happen to be a speaker for the Grow with Google program, which before the COVID-19 hit, I was traveling all around the United States, and I was connecting mainly with small businesses and nonprofits. And we were just really trying to simplify the process of having these organizations use Google tools. So it was just such a fantastic opportunity for me to connect with business owners on the ground level. So we were foot soldiers, educators, and now we've transitioned from traveling all over the United States, from traveling virtually. So now we're doing all of our education, all of our events 100% online. And when I'm not teaching Google products, when I'm not talking about those platforms, I run and operate an international nonprofit organization where I take groups of volunteers and we travel to developing countries, mainly Dominican Republic, and we do service work. So we mainly help to rebuild homes for single moms. We rebuild schools. We teach children art. And we also teach them some leadership skills. And we just added a mindfulness program for both the volunteers and the communities that we serve. So I wear these two hats, and it's been such an interesting, transformative experience. And right now, because there's so many companies and nonprofits that are losing, their human capital, the people that they're working with, I'm getting a lot of questions on what business should I start, or how should I, the key word, Bill, I don't know if you've heard this, but it's like, I'm trying to pivot, but I'm not really sure where to pivot. So, with Arthur, when you asked us, how to start a business during these times, I think that automatically there are a few things that come to mind. The first thing is, even if you're not an expert at something, you should surround yourself with excellence, because there's a lot of content that exists out there. I mean, we're connected 24/7, right? So there's a ton of content you can learn, you can gather all these details, but it's really important to simplify whatever thing you're offering, whatever product and service you're offering. So I'd probably say the first step is to do some research. The second thing is to be a solution provider. What do I mean by that? I mean that, you should figure out what problems you're looking to solve. Now, there are a lot of them, right? But it's taking it a step further. If you are going to be the solution provider, it's always asking yourself, how can I solve my consumer's problem? While at the same time simplifying the whole process. And then probably the third thing would be to know your audience and to create content around whatever conversations your audience is having. So just as a quick example, I also do presentations in Spanish. So if I was to give this presentation 100% en español, y si nosotros estuviéramos conectados, y si yo empiezo hablando español, so if I would continue speaking in Spanish, guess what? You would lose me. I would lose you. The same thing goes when you're trying to figure out how to create the content around your product and service. What's the, engaging keywords that you're using? And are you really making an appealing ask to whatever product and service you're looking to sell? So, Bill, I'm gonna stop now because I'm really curious to hear what you have to say.
Great. Sixty, that was fantastic. You sort of teed up a lot of the things that I would talk about. Let me see if I can take what you put in and then just reframe it too from a perspective of COVID, right? And so people are asking, well, what do I do now that we're in this crisis? And it looks like it might continue for a little while. And my provocative statement is nothing different than what you should have been doing anyways, right? And so I can't tell you how many times I coach businesses that the first conversation we have to have is because they didn't do what Sixia said in her first statement. Do your research, right? We've come out of a 10-year bull market in which you could do a lot of things without having to be all that careful about the due diligence. I'm not saying that you didn't have to do due diligence, but we've had it easy for 10 years in historical context, right? And so I have gone through a number of rounds with startup companies where I've had to go back to them and say, you guys don't understand the market that you're going into. You're trying to start a business without understanding what are you doing, why does it need to exist, how is it going to be a business over the long term, and in what way does this really add to the world, right? So I would say this is an opportunity for us to get back to the fundamentals of making things that really matter, right? And as another thing that Sixia said is knowing your audience, making things that people actually really need and want, right? And then further from that, I would say we have an opportunity now to see where our systems are broken, right? So another consequence of being in a 10-year bull market and having sort of like no real stress to the system, everything just worked. Food got to where it was supposed to get. Nobody asked how or why, right? All your goods got to you. Nobody asked how or why. The COVID situation has now given us an opportunity to see where our system really is fragile. Food isn't getting to the places that it needs to get in the ways that it used to get there. Goods, supply lines have broken down. Goods being made overseas aren't accessible. That goes for drugs and reagents and PPE. So I would say it's a real opportunity to look at the places where things have broken down and ask yourself, how can we fix that? How can we build a business that helps create a resilient ecosystem for the future?
Mm-hmm. Bill,
Right.
I love what you just said right now. I know that there's a bunch of other questions that are coming in, but in a bit, I'd like to elaborate a little bit more on what you just said. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Like I agree with you too. Like stop for a minute, think about what your business is about, what you need to do to improve it, where have you made errors and things like that. Yeah, thank you. And we have a question. Someone asked, Sixtia, what is the name of your nonprofit?
Yeah, so the name of the nonprofit is called Caritas Smile, and it's spelled CARTAS, and then the word smile. And the program is called Take a Trip, Change a Life.
Okay, and that's about helping children, you said, right?
Yeah, so it's we call it a transformative travel experience. So we take volunteers and we connect them with service projects, things like, rebuilding homes. We also have an engineering program on the island. We also have a clean water initiative. So there are several projects that we have on the ground.
That's nice. Pretty cool. And we have another question. What are some examples of how you have seen companies pivot, change?
Mm-hmm. So I'll begin. One of the things that I've seen is an approach to servant leadership, or at least the philosophy. So as I've been connecting with businesses and helping them change the conversation, and really being okay about them pushing forward a product and service because they need the income to survive. And they have to pay their employees because they have families. And so one of the things that we've been looking at is cause-related marketing. As an example of this cause-related marketing, which I love the topic, is if somebody was, let's say, manufacturing water bottles. So I have a water bottle. I know you can't see me, but I have this great yellow water bottle, and if their manufacturing plant was down, and they were looking to break into new markets for different types of reasons, the conversations I've been having is to bring in nonprofit organizations and other organizations that might have another audience, where you could be selling these products and a percentage of the proceeds would go to a cause or a nonprofit. So thinking differently in creative ways where you're not only providing, again, a solution, but you're also engaging and you're helping other nonprofits, because as you help them, then your audience expands, right? Now you have access to a different market. Now it's a combination of you staying in business, but you're kind of switching your audience to do two things. You're selling a product, but you're also helping a nonprofit. So I've been having a lot of those conversations because there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that are hurting right now. And they're doing, I'd probably say any nonprofit organization is for the community, and being able to offer them some kind of assistance where they can maintain their work. I think that would be something fundamental and important as we move forward, as we start to reevaluate and perhaps even change our mission. We should incorporate a service mentality.
All right, interesting.
I can probably weigh it in a little bit with, so you asked where have I seen examples of people pivot?
Yeah,
yeah,
like change, improve their business.
Sure. On a small scale, I'm going through one right now with a couple of organizations that we've done a bit of a fundraising initiative for. So there's a company, a charity group called Eastside Settlement House, who's trying to provide support to communities in the South Bronx their normal mandate is around workforce development, student support, and educational initiatives. As a result of COVID, their communities started to have a food shortage. So they started to pivot and say, how do we help support our other programs by providing food to the community? So in order to keep their students in their programs and to keep people coming to workforce development, they had to pivot and say, oh, now we need to build a solution to bring food and create food security for this community. So we partnered with them to start a thing called Farms to Food Banks, where we raised a bunch of money to buy excess food, excess crops that was going to waste at farms and get it trucked into distribution centers that Eastside House would run in the Bronx. So that's a pivot that we're going through right now. A larger pivot that I really like is last summer I went to Sweden to talk to Absolut Vodka, their CEO, about regenerative business. And one of the things Absolut is looking at is their main resource for making vodka is grains that are made primarily in Sweden. And what they started to notice, along with General Mills, is that because of climate change, their business is being threatened. So the main cost that they have could go up substantially if climate shifts and they lose their crops. So what they noticed was monoculture farming is actually a detriment to their business in the long term. So both businesses, General Mills, I think, is invested in supporting 1 million acres of regenerative agriculture. And Absolut is doing a similar initiative to support regenerative agriculture. So that's an example of like a big, long scale pivot.
That's nice. And what do you do? Like what's your company?
I have 2 companies. One is called Mandala, where we do strategic innovation research. It's a thing we call conscious innovation. So it's basically helping companies understand and writing a future, right? So a lot of times what we do is we help create a vision of the future that looks sustainable. And so we kind of write these like future fictions for companies so that they can begin to imagine, right? We're preparing their imagination for what it looks like for them to create a sustainable business. The theory there is that if you can't imagine it, it's very tough to build. And words like sustainability are a bit abstract. So what we try to do is do a research project and show them, here's what your business might look like if you had practices that were sustainable and regenerative. And that's one business that I do. And then the second business is Seek Human, and that's about leadership development and coaching.
Okay, nice. And another question is, who do you look at right now for inspiration in order to keep going?
Good. Since I just spoke, do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I really love the work of this group called Village Capital, and a guy by the name of Ross Baird. And what he's explaining is basically a more equitable venture capital world and a more equitable startup world that invests not only in businesses that are going to scale and be unicorns, but in businesses that are really going to contribute to the community and be sustainable over the long term.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And so, thank you, Bill. That's wonderful. I'd probably say that somebody that has been an inspiration happens to be somebody who's very, very close to my heart, and that's my grandmother. And I think that being able to remember her, her story, and her courage and her inspiration has really put things into perspective. So she passed about 2 years ago, and she raised my brother and I. And she would always throw out these really fantastic quotes and these sayings in Spanish, and they've stuck with me. Growing up in the inner city, barely reading and writing, I got into the University of Rhode Island, and I basically taught myself along with, the help of mentors. And, it was very difficult. And in my mind, I just, constantly hear her voice. And her message to me before she passed away, and it was one that she had said to me before, was, she said, "Sixia, life is going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, but it's not going to be impossible." And so, I mean, it was just, something so beautiful and so touching to me. And it lives with me all the time, because especially during these transformative moments, this is difficult. It's a challenging moment. And it's our choice to decide on how to act and how to move forward. So it is difficult, but it's not impossible. And I think that impossible times, it's a opportunity for us for creativity to be born. Yes. So that is, she continues to be an inspiration to me. And that's my message to all of you who are trying to help, trying to find creativity. And it's through conversations like this that action is born. So thank you for asking that.
Thank you very much. Yeah. An inspiration for me would be my mother, who always pushes me. We started a small family business recently having to do with spiritual bracelets. And also another inspiration would be a spiritual master by the name of Sri Chinmoy. And one of his quotes that I always keep with me is, there's only one road, and that road is ahead of you, always ahead of you. So there could be like things surrounding you, doubts, worries, and distractions, but don't pay attention to them. Just follow your road. Just pick your own path.
Nice.
Yeah. And we have another question. How do you cultivate a healthy entrepreneurial mindset?
Good question.
Bill, I'm going to give that over to you, because I have to jump off, everyone. I have an event that I'm teaching at. So Bill, please stay in touch. Thank you so much, Professor Snipes. And I wish all of you so much health and joy as you start to create your business, or not create a business, and that's okay too. Bye, everyone. Take care. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye, Sixia. We'll catch up.
Bye.
Bye, Sixia.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
so the question is how to cultivate a healthy entrepreneurial mindset. I like that the question says healthy entrepreneurial mindset. It implies that there may be a dark side, which I think I've definitely experienced. So for me, the entrepreneur mindset, there's all sorts of definitions for this, right? So I don't think there's a right or a wrong, but for me, the entrepreneur is one who really cultivates the ability to hold risk. And the entrepreneurs that I know in life, and I wouldn't necessarily consider myself one, not a true one really, but the ones that I know in my life are people who really understand that and love to cultivate risk, right? And people who go out and collide with the real world, okay? So they go out and they figure out what's needed and how to make it happen. And then they bear the risk of trying to do that. And that risk, inherent in that risk, in every entrepreneur's story, is a bunch of failures. And so cultivating, I think, small failures and getting comfortable with failures is something that usually is part of most entrepreneurs' story. You'll hear that they had a small business growing up and they did this thing and that thing, and this thing kind of worked, but this other thing that didn't work. And they're going to have a whole bunch of stories around, well, I tried 4 things and it didn't work. And it was finally the 5th one that I got to work.
Yeah, and I'll add to
That's amazing.
with that question too. I'll just add in and say, as I think about all through the years and the different types of businesses and different ideas that I've had, sometimes it's about watching really carefully what's going on around me to say, like, what am I connecting to? What am I really enjoying doing?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I do more of that sometimes? And that was the case, like when I was in Lithuania. I was in Lithuania studying on a Fulbright scholarship just out of college, doing some research, spending time on, going back and forth between classes. But I noticed that there were a lot of people who didn't understand anything about what it really meant to have like an ecological life. And there are all these resources of all these people that I had met in Western Europe when I had done some traveling over there that were doing really interesting things with that. And so in my mind, I don't know if it's the entrepreneurial mind or not, that just sort of made it happen. So the healthy choice sometimes can be that you just notice what's around you a little bit closer so that you're not reaching out, trying to like create something brand new all the time. Now, there are people who think of fantastic ideas, and that might be it. So that would be a little bit of advice from me.
Yeah, I would add, I was
Thank
just
you.
writing another piece to add in the, on the risk side. This is, I think, something people forget a little bit is it's understanding risk and it's cultivating a healthy appreciation for failing, but also it's understanding how to fail at a low cost, right? So I think a lot of entrepreneurs are good at testing ideas at the least cost possible. And then when they get a hit, they know then to double down. So you're kind of scanning the world for opportunity, and you want to be scanning at the lowest cost possible. And then when you get a signal, then the entrepreneur knows to go all in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice example.
You have one or two more questions for us, Arthur?
I think that's it. Well, one question for me is, what do you like most about your business?
It's a great question. I have two things that I really like. So on the sort of research and future fiction side, it's creating the world that is possible. And so we often get to have these conversations with people where we can take them out of their everyday and say, let's, for a moment, move into this imaginary space and play with the world of possibility, right? So we get to basically kind of play with the question, look what we can do, right? If you weren't beholden to these structures, and if you weren't beholden to this is how you're supposed to do it, look at what we can do. And so that's a real fun thing to do with people. And then on the coaching side and the team development side, I really like being in it with people to work through a challenge. And so I have the ability there to kind of help be a translator, I suppose, if you will, and a coach who can hold up a mirror and kind of say, okay, you said you wanted to make this change. How do we do that? And what does that look like? And then we'll walk through that together. And then we get to look back and say, okay, great. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What's next? And that's a really fun journey to go on with people.
That's nice.
That's excellent.
Yeah. And
I just wanted to wrap up. Arthur, you have closing words for us? That would be great.
Closing words?
Yeah.
Sum up what we heard, Arthur.
What? I'm sorry?
So give us a summary of what you heard.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to say thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Professor Snipes, for organizing this event. It was a real honor. And I would say that we are all one. That's the main point, because like when together, when our minds and hearts are in together on a certain project, we can do it. with no doubt.
So true. Well spoken. What a great
And
way
have
to
the
close
passion.
out this panel.
Yeah,
Um,
and have the passion to do passion.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Arthur, Bill, thank you both for being part of this closing panel that we had.
Thank you.
And thank you, the audience who've been here. We're going to break out into the table mode again. If you want to hang out and chat with us, the people who've been chatting with you, or you want to talk with other people, feel free to stay in the table mode and talk with each other. I will create like a little timer at the top that you can use at your discretion, or you can stay at the table and keep talking with folks. There's no reason why this has to end right away. We have more time in the space, so use it however you'd like. I want to say thank you again to everyone who's been part of this event. Thank you to the college for allowing us to have this space and continuing to be an inspiration to all those folks in New York City who can get access to education. And this is an education that anyone can get access to at CUNY. So I'm so thankful to be part of this community, and to bring entrepreneurship to folks like yourselves is truly the thing that I've always wanted to do. So I feel like, similar to Bill, I'm living a life that is exactly what I wanted. Also because I just kept getting out there and doing new and inventive and creative things. Eventually, I gathered enough knowledge that I feel like I can share some insights and some things with folks. I hope I'm helpful for people like that. In the end, I want us all to hold each other close in this time of the pandemic. If you're watching this video, decades from now and you're looking at it, just know in 2020, we had a really crazy time when everything that we thought was normal changed. And this is an opportunity for us all to step up and transform it with our own ideas and our own inventions. So please do that going forward. Thanks again, everyone, for being part of this. And